Well, it was a pretty significant trade between the Flames and the Flyers on Thursday night, and we're going to get into that right now here on the latest on the fourth period presented by CCM Hockey. Kate Pedersen alongside Dave Pagnotta. And Dave, big move on Thursday night, and we're seeing Andrei Kuzmenko and Jake Peltier. They go to the Flyers, and over to the Flames, it is Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost. And that all came down on Thursday night, and I'm wondering from you what you think of the trade and where that leaves these two teams.
Yeah, certainly, Kate. Certainly an interesting one. I mean, this was something that was kind of in the works on off for several months. You know, they talked about this. Morgan Frost is a player that Calgary even talked about last season, and Craig Conroy kind of admitting they had some discussions in the middle of the summer about it as well around draft. They've inquired about Farabee, and things just really escalated Thursday morning, when they sat down and had this discussion about getting this done. You know, there's two different ways of going about of kind of analyzing and reviewing this trade. So from Philly's perspective, they like Peltier. Morgan Frost wasn't hitting his stride in Philadelphia, and Joel Farabee on a bit of a decline, although he's only 24. But to get rid of that contract and to get rid of the term seems to be the primary motivator for Philadelphia, to give him more flexibility going into the summer, which we'll get into momentarily with respect to the numbers. That seemed to be the prime motivator. Again, they like Peltier. They want to see what he can do within their system, but this frees up a lot of money for them moving forward. From Calgary's perspective, and we've talked about this on the latest before, they wanted to give their team a bit of a boost. You know, they're still in the playoff hunt. They wanted to address their 2C position. They get that with Frost for the time being. They wanted to add a top 6 caliber winger. They add that for now in Farabee, and they want to see obviously how he performs. But everything that Calgary has been looking to do from an adding perspective has been geared towards long term. You have controllability with Frost. You have Farabee on a long-term deal for the next several seasons. Check mark. Philly checks some boxes too. It just made sense overall for these two teams in this particular deal.
We mentioned it earlier that we talked about it on the latest, and I think we actually said probably about a month ago, let's see where Calgary is over the next few weeks, and then see, if they're still in the playoff race, then maybe we would see something from them. So we're kind of doing stuff that is happening here, not to pump our own tires here, but you were at the game the other night in Florida. Drew Doughty back with the team, and he's back playing. Now, that meant that Brandt Clarke was a healthy scratch. Now, he's their highest scoring defenseman, and Twitter's all abuzz about the fact that maybe they're going to trade him. Seems unrealistic. Can you confirm or deny that?
Very unrealistic right now, anyway. Things kind of blew up on Wednesday when the Kings announced that he would be a scratch, or it was revealed that he was going to be a scratch. He also didn't play Thursday against Tampa. And then it just kind of spiraled and took a life of its own. I talked to pretty much everybody in the Kings organization that night, and they all kind of were like, okay, we get it, but everyone just calm down. They love Brandt Clarke. He is not on the trade block. They're not actively trying to trade him. I don't even think they're engaged in any discussions involving Brandt Clarke. They really like this kid. Now, it was situational. Drew Doughty comes back. They have 9 defensemen on the roster. I know Kings fans don't want to hear this, but he was the guy that had to be the odd man out for the time being. They like what Jordan Spence and Joel Edmondson have together as a pair. I suspect that will change eventually because they want to get Brandt Clarke back into the lineup. It could be as early as tomorrow in Carolina. That might mean Spence comes out or Mo Vahari comes out as well. So we'll see kind of what decision they end up making, but there's no thought process in terms of moving Brandt Clarke. But what I can tell you, Kate, is that LA is actively looking to bring in a scoring winger who has a right shot. We've talked about this with Dennis Bernstein before. They have heightened that search. They have had trouble scoring for the last little bit. They got blanked 3-0 by Tampa and Florida this week. They want to address their scoring needs. They're looking actively for it, and that could mean somebody significant off the roster getting moved out in order for the dollars to work.
All right. Well, over in Montreal, we know that they have been taking calls on their pending unrestricted free agents, like a Jake Evans, like a David Savard. So at this point, what do you think will happen with Montreal? Are they buying? Are they selling? Could it be a little bit of both? What will benefit them ahead of the deadline?
I think it's going to be both. I think they're going to continue, even though they're in the race and in the thick of things in the wild card discussion in the East. They're going to look at both. They're going to look at what the market is going to dictate for Savard, for Evans, for Yoel Armia, for Christian Dvorak. Those are the expiring contracts that they've got in terms of UFAs. They're going to continue to listen on that. They're also weighing, do we sign Jake Evans? Do we explore the market? So that's one part of the equation. The other thing that Kent Hughes is doing right now, from the sounds of things, is something he's done every season over the last 3 seasons by bringing in Patrick Laine, by bringing in Alex Newhook and Kirby Dach over the last 3 years. He wants to add that caliber player in terms of age and potential at the time of those trades to his roster. So he's going to look to make those types of additions that'll carry out into the summer and around the draft if he's not capable of doing it before the March 7th trade deadline. But that's what the Habs are looking at right now in terms of adding. They're doing it with the long term in mind, and they have prospects and they have draft pick capital that they're willing to package in order to make something like that happen. So the Canadiens are going to be active in terms of discussions. Whether any action comes out of it, we'll have to wait and see, but they're looking.
All right. Well, one thing we won't have to wait and see, well, I guess we will, was the NHL and NHLPA announcing the increases to the salary cap over the next 3 years. It totals $25.5 million with a good jump of $7.5 million into next year. So what can you say about that? Is that sort of what you expected to be the ballpark? And what does this do for teams moving forward?
Well, it does a lot because, teams wanted to know, and so did agents. They wanted to know how the cap was going to be projected, not just in a few months, but in a few seasons, so that they can properly plan accordingly how they're going to set their rosters up moving forward. Now, the league is now in a position with financial stability where they can make those projections comfortably. And the NHLPA and the NHL had to agree on these numbers. $7.5 million bump going into next season, then 8.5, then 9.5. Those are significant. Everybody assumed it would be around 95 million next season, and then it was going to be like maybe 100, maybe 105. These are significant jumps where in 2 seasons from now, 104.5, in 3 seasons, 113 or 104, excuse me, and then 113.5. Like that's significant. That's a significant increase over these 3 years. It also shows you how strong the league is financially right now, as they're around $7 billion annually at this moment. So teams can now prep for it. Agents can now prep for it. This is also a good indicator that things are moving smoothly in the discussions between the league and the Players Association. Their CBA negotiations will officially begin. They've had loose talks, but negotiations will begin in February, and hopefully they get to a finish line by the summer on a full CBA. But this now allows teams to project. This also, you look at kind of Mikko Rantanen's overall decision. He's going to cash in big. Mitch Marner is certainly going to cash in big next summer, and this will affect more of those guys down the road. So the league can now project comfortably where they're going to be at, and it's going to allow teams to spend their money a lot more purposefully, as I struggle on that word, over the next 3 seasons.
Makes sense. And definitely exciting, I think, for hockey fans as well, to
Yeah.
be able to see how the league is continuing to grow and to be able to watch some of these stars, maybe in their different cities. Maybe Rantanen stays put where he is.
Yeah, and the other thing I should indicate as well, it hasn't gotten as much hype as the overall top number, but the floor is also increasing. So every year, everything will kind of increase. And by 3 years from now, the floor will be at 83.5 million. That was last year's cap figure.
Right. So we're going onwards and upwards, quite literally, on the scale. All right, Dave, thank you so much as always, and thank you to everyone for tuning in here. It's the latest on the fourth period, presented by CCM Hockey.